So you want to own a ranch. Thousands of acres stretching beyond the horizon. Cattle grazing beneath an endless blue sky. Cowboys riding across open fields. A quiet lake hidden somewhere beyond the hills. Every sunrise begins with a cup of coffee on the porch. Every sunset ends with the satisfaction of watching your land grow more valuable. It feels like complete freedom. No traffic, no crowded cities, no office walls, just you, the land, and a business that seems to run itself. That's the picture most people imagine. It's the picture movies sell. It's the picture luxury ranch listings are designed to create. But the picture ends the moment you become the owner, because the listing never shows you what happens after closing day. It never shows the well pump that failed last Tuesday, the fence destroyed by spring floods before the repair crew even arrived, the unexpected veterinary bill that appeared the same week cattle prices dropped, or the months when every dollar the ranch earned immediately disappeared into another repair before it ever reached your bank account. From a distance, a ranch looks like one of the safest investments you could ever own. Up close, it becomes one of the most demanding businesses in America. A business where revenue may arrive once or twice each year, but expenses arrive every single morning. And the single most important factor controlling your success, the weather, answers to nobody. Some ranches quietly create enormous wealth. Others slowly drain every dollar their owners have. Some appear successful on paper because the land keeps increasing in value, even while the business itself loses money, and some destroy families who believed owning land automatically meant financial security. By the end of this documentary, you'll understand why all three outcomes can happen on the very same piece of land. Before we talk about profit, we need to answer a much more important question. What exactly is a ranch? Because that single word describes businesses that have almost nothing in common. A cattle ranch raises beef, a sheep ranch produces wool and meat. A horse ranch breeds and trains valuable horses. A bison ranch serves a specialty meat market. A hunting ranch earns money from wildlife instead of livestock. A guest ranch sells unforgettable weekends around campfires, horseback riding, cowboy experiences, and peaceful nights beneath the stars. Then there are luxury recreational ranches. Some barely produce livestock at all. Their greatest value isn't agriculture, it's privacy, tax advantages, and exclusive ownership of thousands of acres. Every one of these properties is called a ranch, but financially, they're completely different businesses. A luxury guest ranch in Texas may operate more like a boutique resort. A commercial cattle ranch in Montana competes with global beef prices every single day. One sells hospitality, the other sells a commodity. Understanding that difference changes everything, because the economics of a ranch depend entirely on what business you're actually operating. Today, we're focusing on the classic cattle ranch, the one most people imagine, the one filled with the greatest opportunities and the greatest financial risks. So let's begin with the biggest investment of all, the land. Most first-time buyers assume cattle will be the largest expense. They're wrong. The cattle come later, the equipment comes later, the land comes first, and for many owners, it remains the single largest investment they will ever make across America. Pasture prices vary dramatically. Some regions appear unbelievably affordable. Others seem almost impossible to justify. On paper, $1,000 per acre sounds like an incredible bargain, especially compared to land selling for $20,000 per acre somewhere else. But ranching has a rule that surprises almost every new buyer. Cheap land usually comes with expensive problems. Imagine buying thousands of acres in Wyoming. The purchase price feels like a steal. But every cow now requires far more land because the grass grows slowly. Winter lasts longer. Hay feeding continues for months. Feed suppliers may be hours away. Auction markets are farther. Transportation costs increase. Veterinary services take longer to reach you. Suddenly, that cheap land becomes very expensive to operate. Now compare that with fertile land closer to major markets. The purchase price may be several times higher, but the growing season lasts longer. Grass supports more cattle. Hay expenses decrease. Transportation becomes easier. Markets are nearby. Sometimes paying more upfront actually reduces your operating costs for decades. That's why experienced ranchers never judge land by price alone. They judge it by productivity, because the cheapest land doesn't always create the highest profits. Sometimes it creates the highest expenses. That's the first hidden lesson of ranch economics. Land price and land value are rarely the same thing. Eventually, you find the perfect property. You negotiate the deal, you sign every document, the money changes hands, the keys are yours, you finally own a ranch. At least that's what it feels like. In reality, you now own thousands of acres of undeveloped land. Owning land and operating a ranch are two completely different things, because before that property earns a single dollar, it must become functional, and this is where reality begins separating dreamers from experienced operators. The first surprise is fencing. Most people think fences simply mark property lines. Experienced ranchers know better. Every fence controls grazing, protects livestock, separates breeding groups, guides cattle movement, and prevents thousands of dollars walking onto someone else's property. Miles of fencing stretch across the landscape, then come cross fences dividing large pastures into smaller grazing sections. Every additional mile costs money, every damaged section demands repairs, every storm creates another maintenance bill, and before your first cow ever enters the property, hundreds of thousands of dollars may already be invested in fencing alone. Then comes water. Without reliable water, nothing else matters. Wells must be drilled. Power must reach remote locations. Pumps must operate every day. Underground pipelines carry water across enormous distances. Water troughs must remain full throughout every season. If one system fails, livestock suffer immediately. Water isn't simply another utility. It's the foundation of the entire operation. Then come working facilities, corrals, sorting pens, loading chutes, handling systems. Heavy steel equipment designed to safely manage animals weighing well over 1,000 pounds. Without them, vaccinations become impossible. Health inspections become dangerous. Transportation stops completely. Every piece of infrastructure exists for a reason, and every piece carries another price tag. Storage arrives next. Winter eventually comes. Grass disappears. Hay replaces pasture. Thousands of bales must remain dry. Equipment needs protection. Machinery requires shelter. Workers need housing. Roads need maintenance. Fuel needs storage. One expense quietly leads to another, until a new owner suddenly realizes something unexpected. The ranch still hasn't earned a single dollar. Yet hundreds of thousands, sometimes more than $1 million, have already been invested simply preparing the business to begin. Only then, after all of that, can you finally purchase the one asset most people thought came first? The cattle. Now comes the part everyone has been waiting for. The cattle. Finally, an asset that actually has the potential to generate income. But unlike a warehouse full of inventory, your inventory is alive. It eats, it drinks, it gets sick, it escapes, it gives birth, and sometimes it dies, long before it ever earns you a dollar. A commercial ranch doesn't buy show animals. It buys working cattle, healthy breeding females, strong genetics, reliable bloodlines, animals expected to produce healthy calves year after year. On a serious operation, building a herd requires an investment that quickly reaches well into 7 figures. And that's before considering the bulls. Most people underestimate how important a bull actually is. One exceptional bull can influence hundreds of future calves. Better genetics don't simply produce better-looking animals, they produce heavier calves, healthier calves, faster-growing calves, animals that command higher prices when they finally reach market. One good breeding decision can quietly increase revenue for years. One poor decision can do exactly the opposite. That's why experienced ranchers study genetics almost as carefully as financial statements. Because the quality of tomorrow's herd begins with today's breeding program. But even the best genetics come with uncertainty. A valuable breeding bull can suffer an injury overnight. A single accident can eliminate years of carefully planned breeding progress. And unlike most expensive equipment, living assets don't come with warranties. Every ranch owner eventually learns the same lesson. Owning livestock means accepting uncertainty as part of the business. Then comes another investment most people never think about. Machinery. Without equipment, a ranch simply doesn't operate. Every morning begins with machines. Tractors move hay. Loaders transport feed. Pickup trucks cross miles of rough terrain. Trailers move livestock. Utility vehicles inspect fences. Fuel tanks keep everything running. Every machine saves labor, but every machine also creates another expense. Maintenance, repairs, fuel, replacement parts, insurance, depreciation. Many first-time ranch owners make the same mistake. They buy everything brand new. The newest tractor, the newest truck, the newest equipment. It feels like success until the monthly loan payments begin arriving. Experienced ranchers often think differently. They buy equipment that matches the size of their operation, not their dreams, because oversized equipment creates oversized debt, and debt quietly becomes one of the largest expenses on the ranch. Eventually, everything is finally ready. The land, the fences, the wells, the barns, the cattle, the equipment. Now the business can finally begin, or so it seems, because this is where the real challenge starts. Most businesses receive revenue almost every day. Restaurants serve customers daily. Retail stores make sales every hour. Hotels collect bookings throughout the week. A cattle ranch works differently. Revenue may arrive only once, maybe twice. An entire year of work depends on a single selling season, but expenses never wait. Hay arrives today. Fuel arrives today. Payroll arrives today. Veterinary bills arrive today. Equipment repairs arrive today. Insurance premiums arrive today. Property taxes arrive today. Electricity never stops. Maintenance never stops. The calendar keeps moving, whether revenue arrives or not. That's what makes Ranching, one of the most demanding cash flow businesses in America. The money goes out continuously. The money comes back slowly, sometimes very slowly. Feed becomes the largest operating expense. As long as grass continues growing, nature feeds your cattle for free. But nature eventually changes. Winter arrives, pastures stop growing. Every animal still needs to eat. Now, every meal has a price. Thousands of hay bales begin disappearing across the ranch. Each day, another stack becomes smaller. Each week, another truckload arrives. One difficult winter can increase feed costs dramatically. Then imagine drought. The grass stops growing months earlier than expected. Hay becomes scarce. Every neighboring ranch needs the same feed. Demand rises, prices rise even faster. Suddenly, the budget you carefully planned months ago no longer exists. You face an impossible decision: buy expensive hay or reduce the herd. Neither option feels good. Buying feed protects the herd, but destroys cash flow. Selling cattle reduces expenses, but also reduces next year's income, because every cow you sell today is one less calf you'll sell tomorrow. That's why drought becomes one of the most expensive events a ranch can experience. Not because it happens once, because its financial effects continue for years. Then come veterinary costs. Healthy cattle still require constant care. Vaccinations, pregnancy checks, parasite control, emergency treatment, calving assistance. Disease prevention. A single illness spreading through the herd can become extremely expensive if it isn't caught early. Preventive health care may seem costly. Ignoring it usually costs much more. Then there's labor. Many people imagine a ranch owner working alone beneath endless skies. Reality looks very different. Large operations depend on skilled people, experienced ranch hands, equipment operators, mechanics, livestock specialists, managers. Each person plays an essential role. Finding qualified workers has become increasingly difficult. The work is physically demanding. Locations are often remote. The hours are unpredictable. And experienced workers have become one of the industry's most valuable resources. Then come all the expenses nobody talks about. Property taxes, liability insurance, fuel, electricity, replacement parts, road maintenance, broken gates, storm damage, unexpected repairs. Small expenses appear every week. Most seem insignificant until they're added together. Then they quietly consume a large portion of annual profit. Eventually, after months of preparation, the moment finally arrives. The calves are ready. This is the day every ranch has been working toward. Months of breeding, months of feeding, months of caring for the herd. Now everything depends on the market. Every calf is weighed, every buyer evaluates quality, every pound matters, every dollar per pound changes the final outcome. A strong market can transform an average year into an excellent one. A weak market can erase months of hard work almost overnight. That's why ranchers constantly monitor cattle prices, because they know something most people never realize. Their business doesn't decide what their product is worth. The market does, and markets can change far faster than any ranch can adapt. That's where ranching begins separating itself from almost every other business. You control the work, you don't control the price. So how much money does a successful ranch actually make? The answer surprises almost everyone, because the business isn't built around selling cattle. It's built around surviving long enough to own valuable land. Every year begins with optimism. Healthy calves, good rainfall, strong grass, stable markets, but none of those are guaranteed. A late snowstorm can wipe out newborn calves overnight. A summer. Drought can destroy months of grazing in just a few weeks. Feed costs can double before winter even begins, and cattle prices can fall before your animals ever reach the auction. That's what makes ranching different from almost every other business. Most companies control production. A ranch controls only preparation. Nature controls the outcome. Then comes another challenge. Time. A calf doesn't become market ready in a few weeks. It takes months of feeding, months of care, months of investment. Every day adds cost before adding revenue. Meanwhile, fuel prices continue changing. Equipment keeps aging. Veterinary bills keep arriving. Workers still need to be paid. The ranch never stops spending money while waiting for income to arrive. That's why experienced ranchers rarely depend on cattle alone. The smartest owners realized something important decades ago. The land itself can produce much more than livestock. Some lease hunting rights during deer season. Others sell premium hay during years of strong rainfall. Many open guest ranches where visitors pay to experience cowboy life for a weekend. Horseback riding. Fishing, campfires, luxury cabins, wide open landscapes. The cattle remain, but the ranch begins generating income from multiple directions. That changes everything. Instead of relying on one paycheck each year, cash begins flowing throughout the seasons. The business becomes far more stable. Then there's something even more valuable. Conservation. Many landowners voluntarily protect their property from future development through conservation easements. The land stays untouched. Wildlife remains protected. Agriculture continues. And in return, Owners may receive significant long-term tax advantages. The ranch doesn't become smaller, it simply becomes financially stronger. This is one reason many experienced landowners think very differently from first-time buyers. They don't only ask, what can this ranch produce? They ask, what else can this land become? Then comes the question that confuses almost everyone. If ranching produces such modest operating profits, why do billionaires keep buying ranches? Because they aren't buying cattle. They're buying something much rarer. Privacy, security, long-term land appreciation, tax efficiency, and one of the few assets that cannot be manufactured. Land, a company can issue more shares, a factory can be expanded, a new shopping center can be built. But nobody is making more land. That's why some of the wealthiest investors in America continue purchasing ranches even when the cattle operation itself generates relatively small profits. For them, the ranch is not simply an agricultural business. It's a long-term wealth strategy. Now imagine two ranch owners. The first believes cattle are the entire business. Every dollar depends on calf prices. Every drought becomes a crisis. Every market decline threatens survival. The second owner thinks differently. The ranch earns income from livestock, hunting leases, guest experiences, hay production, conservation programs, and long-term land appreciation. Both own similar properties. Both work equally hard. Yet one constantly worries about surviving the next season, while the other steadily builds wealth over decades. The difference isn't luck, it's diversification. That's the lesson nearly every successful ranch eventually teaches. Never depend on a single revenue stream when your biggest risks are completely outside your control. So is owning a ranch actually a great business? The answer depends on what you think you're buying. If you believe you're buying cows, you're missing the real opportunity. If you believe you're buying a simple farming business, you're missing it again. But if you understand you're managing one of the world's oldest land-based investment models, a business built on agriculture, real estate, natural resources, tourism, conservation, and patient long-term ownership, the economics become much clearer. Because cattle create cash flow, the land creates wealth. And those are two completely different things. That's the real secret behind successful ranches. They don't simply produce beef, they produce opportunity, they produce experiences, they preserve natural landscapes, they create tax advantages, they generate multiple income streams, and over time, they quietly build generational wealth. The romance of owning a ranch is real. The challenges are even more real. The people who succeed aren't the ones chasing the cowboy lifestyle. They're the ones who understand the business behind the lifestyle. Because every sunrise over thousands of acres may look peaceful, but behind that beautiful view is one of the most demanding businesses in the world, a business where patience matters more than speed. Preparation matters more than prediction, and resilience matters more than almost anything else. Once you understand that, you'll never look at a ranch the same way again,